Yahoo! Dark hooded prof here. I don't know, I'm in a hood mood. Last video, well, because of last video, we're eschewing the classic letter opener. And we're going to a new premium letter opener, though Chinese, right here. The VOSTok Raccoon TI Slim. Unboxed that in the previous video. Yeah. I don't know if there's more than a previous video, but got this nice little case for it. Turns out it's in the name. The raccoon is their shape of the blade there and the handle. The TI part is TI, and it's slim because it's slim. Dun, dun, dun. So we're going to use that to open up an eBay package. I know, 2, 3, I don't know. When we did the tech pickups video, I had quite a few eBay items. Well, this is another one. It's been on, I've been watching for months, and I want to say it's been since November. That one has shown up October, November. I kept it in there, and I should have picked it up. But even the quote-unquote pretty good one, then, though cheaper than this, was not very good. So, let me slice and dice this open off screen. Well, this blade was sharp enough to cut the cardboard in half. Not just the tape off. Didn't expect that. Alright. We got our eBay purchase, and usually from me, eBay means retro, outdated things that you can't get any other way. Granted, my last pair of retro headphones I think I got off of Etsy, which, hey, is where the pen cubes came from in a recent video. Now, I gave you a hint with headphones because this is a pair of headphones that, let's just say this sack is should give you a clue. I don't really want to unwind these, but this would be your other clue right there. I can't leave them there because the headphone cable is still very much attached to my desk. Sony MDR. Sony head. I'm gonna bring up the page that I want. haradasound.com, I think. Sony headphone page. Yeah, that is it. We've shown this page before. I don't really need to do that right this second, but one of the headphones that I've been missing is in that over there. I was looking up on the chart what the difference is. Ooh, really? Interesting. Studio monitor versus digital monitor. For digital straight. Okay. Okay. So I'm getting more of a vibe of what this is. There is still a pair of Sony studio headphones, obviously. Studio monitors here. These are my V6s from the 90s. Or I think technically those might be 89 or 90. They're the year or the year before they switched to the neodymium drivers. And I specifically wanted those because though they're less efficient, less durable, I think they sound better. That's why if it's a known guaranteed pair of MDR-V6s, which is what's in there, in the Japanese market, they're worth a lot more because they know their shit for Sony headphones. Now, what are these then, if we're talking? Well, you just saw my pair of brand new CD900 STs. That is the first take edition. Once that, like, CD900 ST, always on my list. The first take is actually what introduced me to M1 ST. I don't know if it was TK's video on there, but one of the very early videos on the first take featured the CD900 ST. Also, I figured out why this blade pops open. We were talking about that in the video. If you look right there, that's the back tang of the blade. So you pulling this down has to push it out, because there's like a little hook on the back of the blade that touches. And it helps you get started. That's actually pretty smart. What is this? Well, this is, you notice they're not folded up. Now, somebody semi-sacrilegiously put on new cups on here. They're going. I don't know what they used. We might use them initially. But they're going. As far as I can tell, this might be stock now. Interesting. I thought that was a bad thing about one of the really used pairs, but these V7s. Yeah, they are. They're MDR-V7s are in better condition than my V6s. I mean, that'll happen. I bought the V6s in like 06, 05. Roughly, I want to say. MDR-V6. Doesn't go back far enough. That sounds too soon. 06, 05, I would have been using... Oof, what would this have been? Let's go to Gemini. When did this shuffle come? The Souffle. Shuffle. iPod Shuffle Gen 1 release. 2005. Hey, it could have been. Okay, because the shuffle for the first year or two. So yeah, this might have been 2007 at the newest. Gemini.google.com. Sony DJ headphones. Silver. Plastic. Metal frame, rubber coating, circle plastic, strap. From Squiggle 2005. See if they find the ones that I'm looking for. Yeah, I know. I can give you guys a quick preview of Harada sound. Nah. Oh, they're kind of close to those. Close to XD200 but different adjustment. I got to spell right, but I did that one-handed. So that's close right there. It's not those. And those are V700s. If I had a pair of those, whew, I think they were around $60. Maybe around $60. They don't have a picture. Picture? Yeah, right there. Right there. Sony MDR-XD300. Yep. Yeah, a close friend. We've actually built PCs for him before. Down in Chicago, was interning at a studio, like an audio studio, and was using these. Was telling me about them, and I ended up picking up these, and I was using these with my shuffle. No longer available. 40mm drivers, 8 to 25,000 hertz, music or movie mode. Never understood that. But yeah, this is what I ran before V6s. I actually had run V6s before having these without knowing it. Apparently, even as a wee lad, I was using Portapros because cost is from right around where I live. $149 they want for a new in-box pair of Sony. By the way, like I was just interested, like, I wonder how they like, because I'm a bit more like, these sounded good back in the day. I was just like, I wonder what they sound like now, you know. The thing is I don't think these have replaceable cushions. I really don't. They were saying the XD200s. The reason why the XD200s up here weren't it is, you see how there's a clicky adjust here? It doesn't have clicky adjust. It's spring. See, those are springs, and it auto adjusts. You just kind of like pull it down right there. See, that's that. But that's what I was running. Was even using that for a bit of like radio and podcasting, because I bring my own headphones in. I have really nice ones. Why not? And because our high school still had like a full-on TV station, despite being local, like, or really rural, I should say, or rather rural. Well, here's a pair for $50. Ukraine. Let's do US only. I ended up selling these to somebody who I built like a server for, and I built him a PC because he liked what I had, and he's like, I basically want what you have, and I'm like, sure, give me enough money and I'll put it together for you. Yeah, so those are basically the only ones that are truly available that are those, and it's not worth, those do not sound good enough to justify the that money, because almost that much is what these MDR-V7s cost. But that's what I went from, is the XD300s to a MDR-V6. The Sony stuff has been so ubiquitous. I've told this story before, but my dad actually took the speakers out and put them in his motorcycle helmet. I don't know if those would have been V6. I think they would have been V6s at the time, not the 7506. But, you know, like the Sony studio headphone stuff. And like, apparently when I was a kid, I was using Portapros without, because I was just a common headphone. And that, it may explain why now I like Portapros so much. And I really do just like Sony's reference sound. Here is, oh, I did put new, I totally forgot. I'm like, okay. I mentioned on my CD900 STs and the other thing, I would have gotten the red and blue cups, but it made it, because I got the first take edition that doesn't have the colors really on it. It has that really simple silver logo because it's the first take edition. I didn't want this color to be popping here. I wanted them super stealth. I totally fucking forgot that I bought new cups, and I remember now why. I bought some nice lamb's leather cups for this, very similar to like this style where it's just the old oval, right? I can tell, I can feel with my finger, like it's giving my finger heebie-jeebies because that's fake as fuck. That I bought because even though this part that contacts your ear was still perfect on the V6s here, on the replacement real leather cups, because this has to stretch over here, this part that goes into the ear cup was not real leather. I don't know if it's because it has a stretch or what. That's my guess. And it was peeling. And I was like, motherfucker. Because the MDR-V6s, especially their native cups, are known to peel the fuck, which is why I had replaced it with real leather, hoping I've seen audio guys running like microphones, running them with like fuzzy, like they look like, I call them like rugs, fuzzy gray guys, just to make them comfortable for long periods. These guys are always in a state of dusty as fuck because they live in the basement. I grab them when I need a headphone that I know just works and I don't have another headphone on hand. My V6s have never and will never let me down. And I have looked into putting a new headband on it because the padding is gone, especially on the top of the head. Turns out with these, you can... Actually, now you can no longer get replacement parts for the V6. I should have bought one when you can. So all the ones you get now, I think, are knockoffs if they're available at all. Maybe if I can find a real one. But I would probably much rather, like, de-stitch this and modify this original one than probably replace it. Also, you have to solder with these because this goes through the headband and that goes into the cup and it's soldered to the driver. These work perfectly. I don't know that I want to fuck with them. I've already done a cable replacement. And even after doing the cable replacement, this cable's a little messed up because it's the coily guy on the V6. You can see on the end here how it started doubling over. Once you start pulling too hard, it'll start unraveling like that. And then this is actually a Shure screw-on adapter. Normally on the V6, it should be silver. I've talked about it before. Payton was using it at a LAN party, and he pulled it out, and the thing exploded. So it needed a new, even after I did a replacement cable job on it. And yes, I did a official. Like a lot of people would replace this with like an unofficial cable because this is just a 3.5 mil. I at the time liked coiled cables. And that was because coming from those other DJ style headphones, it was weird. They're DJ headphones, but then they have music and movie mode. I never fucking understood that. So this made the cable shorter, even though it said it was super long. The problem is once these age, they get really friggin' droopy. And you can see this coils differently. Like it's less coiled here and more coiled there. Yeah, it goes crazy. But being that I can't get official parts really anymore, you know, I don't want to modify them because these things are dead reliable. I can plug them into anything and they just fucking work. They did get, and I remember now why, they got new ear cups. And I actually saved a bit of money because the other one, these are the same ones. They're like the Gen 2 versions of the Axi pads. If you got a black pair and a colored pair in a set, you got money off. I'm like, hey, that's I couldn't use the CD900 STs have super thin pads just like the M1 STs have because the Japanese ears, the CD900 ST is Japanese only version of this headphone. So their ears are less big. Basically, they can, and also because it's going to be in a studio and it's specifically for the Japanese market with smaller ears, they're really, really friggin' thin, uncomfortable pads, at least for my Western big ears with earlobes, etc. So, had to swap the pads to make those viable to wear. and these needed doing. So I took a, I'm sure these will peel because it is. But Yaxi pads are known to be, and I would agree, if you can get Yaxi pads for your headphones and you need to replace them, or you don't like the fit of your current ones and they're available, give them a shot. They've definitely progressed over time. This gives it much more that open. It's much more open for ears. You got way more room in there, and it actually builds it up a little bit taller. This is very close to the original pad, except this is way flatter than the original pad would have been. Like, you can see they put like flat foam in there. This would have normally been like boop, like that. So they didn't put MDR-V7 ear cups on here. They just and from reading it up on it, I can get Yaxi pads for these, and I will. Now, these, despite being old as frick, you can tell they're old as frick because it still says made in Japan there. They're in way better condition than these are. Now, you got to remember, I used these for better part of a decade. Those are my main headphones. Until IAI. When were the IAI TMA 1s? I mean, I was a kid back then, so those worked, and I loved how they sound. Why would I change it, 13. So maybe not 10 years, 8 years. What did we figure out? I was using those in 2005. I think, well, I would have been using those other DJ ones in 05. Because I was really getting into music with the even before then though, because I had my Arcos player and stuff. You'd have to look at how long ago the was it, the 300s or whatever those came out. I'd have to. It couldn't have been much earlier than that, because I want to say my friend that I met was at like a college thing, so it would have had to have been, well, while I was in high school and that sort of stuff. It's like a summer school for a college that I met him at. Still friends to this day. Awesome dude. So you might be able to see one major difference that is an important difference between the V6s over here, ignoring the brand new cups that aren't original on there. These aren't original. I mean, they're cheap. I'm guessing they put new cups on because the originals just were shredded. All of the original Sony pads, even the ones coming on the CD900 ST to this day. I don't know if the M1 ST or the M1's better. The M1s are like a leatherette or a leather, and the MV ones are velour. But I don't know about the M1 ST or because they still ship the CD900 ST, obviously, with the first take edition. You could see they still made them. I really need to unravel the CD900 ST. Bring them over here, because I'm seeing things that are common between it and the V7s. And I noticed that from the spec list as well. So, here are the CD900 STs, a bit dusty because they've been sitting out. I am looking at getting a case for them. One of you asked me about what case. I have not found a good one for the CD900 ST. In the US, they all fold, or so I thought. Here you can even see the difference between a CD900 ST and the V7. This is a shiny cable, rubberized, like it's like almost a little sticky. Whereas this is a nice matte, slippery cable. Like, you got the big old metal connector, right? 1/4-inch jack only. But if we go and look at the tops here, I don't know if you can tell. These are all the way squished down. These are wider, American head, right? These are taller, and you have the 2 points where it's bending right there, right? They're also way smaller. I don't know if you can tell. I am always on a 4 for Sony. But I don't know if you can tell, the left headband on a CD900 ST is much smaller than a V6. On a CD900 ST, I have to be on an 8. So that is the better part. They go to 10 or 11. 8 is the better part of all the way out. So my big American, and you can tell that that's just because they are sized for a Japanese. They're made exclusively for the Japanese market. They're sized for the Japanese. The ear cups, and yes, getting the speaker closer to ear does make it sound better or closer representation. That happens with like every headphone. If you like push on an ear cup, you'll actually be like, oh wow, it sounds better. Yeah, it's literally, well, some of them can sound worse, but a lot of them, if you just take them and push them into your head more, they will sound better because they're closer to your ear. These are quite dusty because they're always out on my desk, because if I want to do some critical music listening, I often put these on, because often the music I'm listening to is mastered on these, or maybe not mastered, recorded, let's say. Now the V7, based on Harada Sound, which I didn't show you the website. It's a very old school website. I didn't show you the website. I have in previous videos. Harada Sound website. Sony headphones. It's literally just like, this is how I made it. I mean, actually, I think I made better websites with Front Page 2000 or 97 or something, you know, back in the day. But it has all this really good of the era information about the like Sony MDR line. And you might scroll through here and see some that, hey, that's the CD5s. What? Elliot has a pair of CD5s. Yes, I do. After they were in an anime, and I, not drunkenly, ambiently, ordered them, because they were in an ED of an anime. So, here's an example. I am still looking for an MDR CD900. eBay hates me, and even though I put CD900 in quotes, they keep sending me CD900 STs. If you guys know of a way to get a pair of CD900s, they're shiny, they're glossy, and then they have the ring of the CD900 STs around there. But if you notice here, that is silver, right? You can see my cursor on there. That is silver. There's also black plug, right? So if we scroll down, here's a V6, silver plug. They have the classic red and blue on the sides, right? They're foldable. CD900s, foldable, right? Now we get down to CD700, right? And MDR-V7, Japan only for CD700. MDR-V7, silver. The other thing is that makes these different is this is shiny. This is the V6s, the classic V6s, right? There's this like groove you'll see on the V7s, so that you know for sure they're V7s. In original package, EU version, I believe the V7s are still 40mm titanium diaphragm. Yep, here you go. Some sources say MDR-V7 is a 50mm, and I was about to spout that in this video, but I thought I remembered reading something recently that they were still a 40mm diaphragm, or 40mm speaker. And you can see on my CD900 STs right there, there's dust buildup. If you look on these old V6s, there's dust buildup right there. It's because behind that hinge. You cannot clean that shit. But what's special about the V7s, much like the CD700s, which is different than the CD900s, is these fold. But if you notice, black plug. Black plug, not foldable. And if you can see in the box, I didn't realize this until I just saw it, because I saw multiple V7s. They have the little kinks in... Here, I'll do a 2x zoom. You can see the kinks in the package, where that headphone is purposely kinked to be more boxy. Let me get to the 7506s. I've never had a pair of 7506s. I've used plenty, like in studios and recording and video recording and yada, 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 yada. Yeah, CD900 ST. I have those. I want one of these, the glossy ones. So if you guys know where to get a friggin' pair, even be able to search them and find them. I am missing. Here you go. CD900 original. US version. Right? I guess I could do a pair of CD700s as well. That'd be nice. Japan only. Or right? Then there's the US version, the MDR-V7s. CD700 no longer exists, right? Then there's the V7s. There's the CBS. The CBS is the lead into the CD900 ST. So it went 900. CBS is the Japanese only ones. Again, because they're like, yeah, you guys made these too American, especially the V6s and the 7506s. We want another American one, and that was CBS's. That was a something broadcasting station. So this was for a specific like TV broadcaster in Japan. Then we went to the CD900 ST, and that is the studio edition, Japan only, made for, because this went over well. That the other places are like, yeah, we want that, but like more tweaks, more mass produced. This one had the first, like the 4/4 inch only, big metal connector, yada 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 yada. Right. At some point, I should buy a pair of 7506s. Maybe I'll buy a brand new pair. I don't know. I don't know if there's any difference between, because by this time they switched to the neodymium magnet and away from the, if you look, Sumerian cobalt. But that changed once the 7506 came out. The V6 got the same part number for the drivers, so you need one like predating 91, depending on where it is, and there's ways to verify that. At the time, I just did mine because you could still get one of that age. You can see the different diaphragms. They'll have different felts around them. They'll have different foams here of different thickness around this. There's stuffing in the back. The CD900 ST with micron silk dampener, only model with that absorption. So that's like another change they made specifically for the 900 ST that you could probably do yourself if you wanted to mod it. This site for these old Sony headphones. Now, if you go older than the V6, it gets a bit rough. They do have some pictures, but there you can see, like, that's why the foam on my CD5s is all jacked up. Is like theirs turned orange color, mine like petrified into like hard foam. But if you're looking for a pair of true V7s, I will show you what you need to look out for. First step, V6s. Ignore the gold. It's supposed to be silver. So this adapter is supposed to be silver. Mine had to get replaced after the cable got replaced, but I actually used to order, until my like third pair of ear cups for the V6, I was ordering them direct from Sony, and replacing it direct. Like, I don't know. That was before I got into modding keyboards, yada yada yada. I was just happy that, because most, even those other DJ ones, those would flake as well, but you like couldn't get replacement ear cups. That's why that new in box one, that's $150. I know how old those are. You're gonna take those out of the box. You're gonna put them on your ear once, and they just flake everywhere. And you're gonna have to figure out some way to swap them. Yeah, and those are a lot of that's plastic, and then around that upper, there's like a steel band like over that goes over. It's like a, what do they call it? Like a suspension part or a frame of the headphone. Well, there's this like really thin rubber that goes around it, so you're not touching the metal. So you're But even back then, after owning it, after a year or two, that rubber would get like sticky, kind of like this is a little sticky, but like it would start cracking. I saw some of those when used. The like rubber would peel away from the like steel headband around it. But yes, this is a metal plug with a silver screw on, because these were never supposed to be professional. It was the 7506 that came later that became professional, because these got used professionally. That's why they say for digital. Even though they say studio monitor up top, they say for digital on the side. My CD5s say for digital. That's just because the CD was out. It's digital music. Then this has the red stripe, the 4 digital. The I don't have my MV1, so I can't use those as an example. Do I have my... No, the MV1s don't have the blue on the side. The 7506s, instead of say for digital, say for professional. So the MV7s, because we haven't gone professional yet, even though these are based on the CD900s, right? Technically, they're based on the CD700s, right? But if you go look back, their lineage does not share with the V6s, right? Because look at that big headband. There's a little bit of corner up here. You can see a little bit of that, but it's a much bigger headband. The lineage of this, because these are like the international version of the CD700, and those are based more on the CD900s. You can see by silver left, silver right. That's why I had to double check these. I'm like, this headband is in way too good condition. I didn't even realize in the pictures that it was kinked like this. I thought the one that I had seen back in October, November, like somebody had misused it. No, turns out you can see the new one in that case had these little kinks here. And the original CD900 that was foldable also had those little kinks there. What it does is it makes the headband way skinnier. It's even skinnier than, if I collapse this, than my CD900 STs. Yeah, because these would be kind of in a similar, like, see how the V7s are actually even skinnier than the modern CD900 STs. And you can see there's a little bit of kink there, a little bit of kink there, but it's nothing like this. And I'm surprised that that's stock. They're trying to get more clamp force, is my guess out of it. And the other way is, besides having the silver sides here, that's how you can tell they just, because there was one that they were trying to sell as an MDR-V7 that had the cup, but the headband had the blue and the red. And I'm like, maybe they replaced it and they could only get a V6 headband. Another way to tell, that was mentioned on the Harada Sound site, is this goes into the arm, right? And it's less replaceable due to that. You look at the CD900 ST is the same way. The wire goes into the arm. That's considered more premium, right? And that's because they don't collapse. These, because they fold, like so, the wire doesn't go in the arm there. It's just clipped on the side. That, from my experience, also makes them easy to repair, because in here, jeez, these are so freaking dusty. I need to get a case for them. Yeah, I need to get a cloth on them too. The wire's going through the pivot, the hinge here, right? So these, in my opinion, like replaceability, repairability wise, are easier to do. I also think too, when folding them, like I collapse them all the way, they're actually a bit easier to collapse if you actually make them a little bit bigger, because it wraps around more. See that? It does make it a little bit bigger in the bag, but rather than going like this, see, they kind of want to spring out more. You actually want to extend them out a little bit, and they're much happier in that position. And like I always thought that part of the creases up here were from folding it, and the top of the cup would push in to there. But based on the fact that the MDR-V7 cannot collapse, you can see there's remnants of a hinge there, just like on the CD900 STs. There's remnants of a hinge there, right? Because remember, these are based on the V700s, which are based on the CD900s. But then we have the 4 digital, right? But then on the V7, you got this like groove. So I have seen people selling on eBay V7s that have V7 on the cup. And they even have it above, right? Like if you notice, it's V7 dynamic headphone, whereas this is dynamic stereo headphones V6. They have it up there, but there needs to be this little like groove, let's call it, right? Which then makes the digital logo smaller. Like I said, these couldn't have been used much because they are in better condition, and they should be, according to that chart, they should be as old or older, I think, than my V6s. Because I know my V6s are 90, I believe they're 90. And these are going to be like 87 to 92 question mark, roughly, they're saying. So the fact that they're in as good condition as they are is kind of nuts. The other way to test to make sure this isn't like a modified pair of V6s or 7506s is the cable is, and I didn't notice this until I have them, but it's this more like rubber or like old school plastic cable than the nice. This is a nice rubber cable. See that, like it's like a dull sheen. Same on the CD900SD, even nicer. This is more of like a plastic. Like it sticks in your hands a little bit, but the connector on this is also supposed to be, as you see here, black, and it's rubber. It is not metal. Don't know why. But that is the correct gold-plated with the green. That's also how you know that this has been swapped. This would also have been green, if you notice. You can see the green right there. So that's how you know I don't have an original. By this time, you couldn't get that anymore. And the Shure, Sony uses standard threads for professional headphones. Shure makes, I have tons of these around now, and they make a quality one. So just replace it with a Shure one, because finding one of these. Also, from my experience, the plastic here breaks, and that's what makes the whole thing fucking pop apart. You can see green and green. So, and you can see a little bit of tarnish on this 1/4-inch jack. But, like, there's no rings or anything. There might be a little bit around. Yeah, I can catch it with my nail. There's, like, a little bit of tarnishing around this outer, like, where it would snap in. Right there. I think that's the ground. But, like, I think and this one would have been silver, by the way, too. This guy has more wear on it than this one, except around the outer part of this plug. Interesting. But that's the other way to see if they're real V7s, is they will not have this metal plug, or like some of them will have the metal plug in black. It'll be a silver adapter. No, it's a gold adapter with a black plug on it. And the black plug has the same, there's like even grooves on here, just like you would see on here. It's like they were trying to cut a little bit of cost. Just a soupçon of cost. Yeah, you can see there's a little bit of corrosion on there. Was this guy? I mean, this looks barely fucking used. I'm gonna listen to him hood off. Since we're going direct, I'm gonna use the 5th gen. Oh, it's on hold. It should have been on hold the whole time. See if she boots up, because it wasn't on hold. There you go. Middle button to turn on. Hold play pause to turn off. Shuffle songs. It'll take a little bit. 13,000 on here. It lacks hives. We're just not going with that. Alright. Paisley Marie. I know you want me to be done here. Oh, let's expand it to... I'm going to try the Classic 4. Now this headphone looks way skinnier. Closer to the Japanese fitment. So I'm going to try it on 4. That's what American Sony, literally across... I pulled out the MV ones, and they fit me on 4. The M1s fit me on 4. The M1STs, which are a more modern Sony headphone, fit me on 4. I gotta pop this off here. They're working. Here. 4 doesn't even make it down to my ears. Wow, these go right to 11. There is definitely wear on the slider. Here. You see the line in the middle? It's like these haven't been used. But they really haven't been used much. And then, like, they click in better. 8's too big. So they're not Asian sized. Like Asian, like 8 was falling down. 6 isn't big enough. This could be a cups thing, because these are like shitty cups. They're trying to emulate the originals without got here? I want to track. We got some jazz going. I want to say these have more bass than the V6s. Let's give it a shot. I'll pop the V6s in. Oh, here. You want to see a worn pair? Like, it doesn't even hold anymore. That's after, like, these came quite worn to me. I had to put a new cable on it. Like, just like my, or those HD 25s, my Sennheiser HD, those shipped with a different cable, as did these. Like, that's how I was getting such good deals in high school on headphones, was I'd order ones that people had purchased to, like, repair, or like, oh yeah, they went, you know, like, it needs a new thing. I don't want to bother doing it. Well, if you bother doing it. Oh yeah, these have way more bass. I don't know what the curve looks like, but and yes, I'm using different cups, so that could have some effect on them. These have a much fuller sound. Like, the V6s are probably more neutral, but holy crap, am I gonna be like floored by the V7s? Oh, I guess that should be another thing I point out. Here's the snake that is the springy coiled cable of the V6s. If you notice, the V7s had a straight cable, and that came from the V700s, which would later be in the V900, what is it, CBSs and the 900 STs, but it is a cheaper cable. Yeah, I think this headband's comfier. I have a wide head, so this one kind of touches on those two corner bends up there, and V7s have way more low end. Well, I guess like the tuning is more that way. Not that the high end's gone. That's crazy. That's something I'm gonna have to research. Like the fact that they can get such different ranges, what is. Well, you saw on the CD900 STs, they just had that little bit of stuffing in this side of the cup, and that made a huge difference. The foam seal that goes on your ear, that's under the cup, is different on the CD900 STs as well. Like, Sony's making these, like, they, in their minds, at least with this generation, had, like, in the 80s, figured out, like, their headphone, and they were just, if you look up the Honda NSX, or what would be the Acura NSX in the US, they kept doing that towards the end of that too, where they just, like, perfect it, right? I would be interested in looking at a response chart of the V6s versus the V7s. Like, this is crazy. Crazy amount of difference. I could see these being more, and these aren't marketed as professional, whereas later ones start to be. Where's my adapter? I always just keep it right here. I see it. It fell. I need to order like a DD Hi-Fi 1/4 inch to 3.5 mil. This is the one they shipped with the CD900ST. I think it's the same one that shipped with like the V1, MV1. I'm gonna rewind this. Let me grab the CD900ST. I think there's even less. The balance on the CD900ST is much better than the V6s. Like even Squares, when he was listening, was like, "Holy shit!" Like he's like, "I can see why those cost." Like say if a V6 was like $100, the CD900ST is nearing 200. He was like, is there really that much difference? You know, they look the same, but the tuning between these, look at that. If you're running that step on there, do you see that, like where it gets thinner? This is how far back and how long Sony keeps this shit around, right? That step is from the first generation of iPhones. You see right there? That recessed step. Okay, the CD900STs sound better than the V7s. It's just a even fuller sound with better separation. I mean, these could be tired as hell too, but okay, let's switch again here. This is just one track too, like one jazz track, but like we got some saxophone going on here. The CD900ST has much better separation in the saxophone. Probably about the same fullness on the low end. A little bit less overbearing than the V7s. And let's try these V6s again. The V6s is not like they don't have bass, for those wondering. They do. It's just there's not a lot of it. But then comparing it to some headphones that like actually don't have bass, they have quite a bit. The higher end of the sax is more clear than the V7, but you're losing a lot of the fullness of the bottom end. Some of this maybe because they have these pleather cups on them, and they're not getting like this small. It can't get around my ear, so it's like almost an on ear, even though it's an over ear. You really gotta get yourself a better set of aftermarket pads if you want a proper over ear, and they can do that. You saw the Yaxi pads here. They build it up differently, and the first gen of Yaxis are exactly like this. If you like that, or you have smaller ears, the second gen is kind of in between. You can technically put the M1ST pads on an older pair like this. The cup shape is more round though, I think. I don't know if I do that when they have specific ones for this generation. I mean, I still like how the V6s sound. Don't get me wrong. But they are like lacking Like, they're not as full of a sound. The V6s were always very well known for being like a vocal monitoring pair. That's like their largest use in the US. And even the CD900 STs, where you're seeing those in studios, is for monitoring. That's why there is studio monitor. Yeah. Yeah, these V7s are just wow. You do lose some of the detail though, but like in the sax. But right now we're into piano and like bass, like stand up upright bass. And the piano is very full, whereas there it sounded a bit lacking potentially. I do think they might have found out that these were a bit overdone and scaled them back. I could see these being very pleasing for the consumer market, though. Just trying to get another track, one that I know. So this is like 90s pillows. It is a bit harsh on the upper end. Like sharp. He sings pretty... Let me compare those two. I'm just interested to see how that sort of higher male vocal sounds on... Yeah, see, like this, it wants to take everything off the table. And these don't hold. Like, that's the reason why I was thinking about getting a new. They don't hold for shit. And once on your head, you just. I got used to doing this. You just put them on your head, and they work just fine. See, now with the V6s, this sort of male vocal that's higher a bit, just the way he sings in the 90s for the pillows, is much less sharp and jarring and rough. It's actually a little bit quieter too. I don't know how to explain that. But like in general, even though I haven't adjusted it. And I listened to a lot of this on these, so that's maybe why. Oh, Paisley's gonna sit by us. Hey, Paisley. All right, let's try the CD900 STs here. There's the plug for it. Yeah, other people have recabled these. If these weren't the standard CD900 STs are a dime a dozen. Like if this wasn't the first take edition, I've had at least one reach out in the comments and at least one person directly email me trying to get these specifically. I'm sorry guys, it took me quite a bit to get these, and I've wanted CD900 STs for a while. And the fact that I followed the first take and I managed to get a pair like outside of Japan, I don't know that I'd ever part with them. So the vocals now are a bit more recessed, actually, than the V6s. They're a bit more natural, but they're more recessed. Whereas on the V7s, they were a bit more like harsh. And remember, this is all tuning to effectively the same ear cup, the same speaker, playing with different materials for the diaphragm, with different materials for the magnet. The sound on the, even though it's a bit recessed on the 900 STs, it's smoother. Let's go back to the V6s once here. It's just surprising to me that there can be so much variation in a line of headphones that's been there since like the 80s, right? They have finally introduced, starting with the M1ST, like a new line. And they're all very different now. But these are all just slight variations on the same. It was smoother, it was fuller on here, the vocals. But then if we go all the way back to a 90s pillows, I've listened to enough. It's like kind of getting its own way. It's not my favorite. Like early 90s pillows, not my. I would say, okay, so despite having this bend on it, the clamp force on here is really weak. Probably even less than. Now, if I put thicker pads on here, that would put them a little further apart, so there'd be more. But the clamp force on the V7s, I mean, you can tell that, is significantly less. So that's maybe why they had to change the angle of the headphones. Yeah, so it seems like they traded, because the high end on the V7s is way more harsh than the V6s. So it seemed to have traded, they gained low end by like losing some high end. We got some move here. Got some Eurobeat here. Listened to a lot of techno, house, Eurobeat on these bad boys back in the day. Alright. Now this is like a remixed track, so I'm probably not as familiar with it as I would be with the original. But I've listened to all their singles, remixes. You know. That's oh, there's way less low end on the V6s. I would say in this sort of stuff it's more hollow in general. It's tighter though, probably. Yeah, there's just not that punch on the low end that the V7s have at all. Like, there's also a shelf on the V6s specifically where it just falls off. There's like a whole sub bass that you're kind of getting on here. Yeah, it feels like there's like a whole part of the track missing on those. Let's try the 900 STs, and that'll probably be our last one. But yeah, that's why I'm so interested in getting this whole collection of all these variants. They're all different. Oh wow, yeah. So we got the extra bass the V7s have in the 900 STs. We got that, but it's tighter. Like there's less sustain to it, if that makes sense. we get the sub bass that was missing here. There's less of it though, for sure. Whereas before it was a boo, 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 boo. I wonder if anybody has charts that can compare V7s. Somebody had to have. Yeah, the 900 STs are tighter in the low end than the V7s, but they don't even go as far. Twinkles in the top. I think on the low end, the V7s are more fun than the 900 STs. You can definitely see with this, they managed to add the bass in without affecting, and actually not even without affecting, they made it sound better than the V6s, flat out. I wonder if we have. Oh, you can see the sub bass boost. All right. I don't know how accurate this is. I can't like the V7s are quite rare. So if you look here, there is a dip here, right? That's at bigger dip. I can't see what's that, 200 hertz. I want to say, yeah. This is a CD900 ST, pretty flat throughout this. That's through what, 80, 90 through. There's a little peak at, what is that, like 3K? There's peak at 3K, but all the way through like 2.5K, all the way down to, where does it start rolling off? Probably peaks at 100, a little bit of roll off at 90, 80, and starts rolling off. Well, if you look at here where we start getting into the sub bass here, this is the V7 is a much more, like, it's very flat in this range. That's probably what's making it fuller. And then you can see it goes down and it goes way up. We're at what, 95? So we're like up here already in the V7s. And then it goes down, and then rather than having this roll off, which they probably had to do to keep it flatter in general, it pops back up around 50 hertz. That's where we're getting all of that sub bass from that I was talking about. The vocals being, like less. What are we looking at? That's gonna be like the 2 to 4K. So we're going up, like they're harsher. So they're like, there's a harder peak at 2K here, but that's at, what is that, 80? Yeah, it's, oh yeah, everything's kind of bumped up. So what would normally be 80 here is 85 here, right? So it's higher here and higher here. It's more of like a V shape. I mean, I'm not saying it's a V-shaped headphone. You can see it's quite flat still, but it's more V-shaped than a 900 ST is, right? Then you have the dip around, what is that, 4K? And then peak at what, 5K? And then I did notice the 900 ST manages to peak and then continue kind of being more flat, and then a little bit of a dip at 7, 8, 9K, I want to say, right? Whereas this is much more, it gets up, then it falls down, and then gets up, and then, it's, I did not find, like, yeah, they're saying, yeah, quite good favorite bass response. Many Sony have, the diagrams are amorphous titanium, which is being coated with titanium. Unsure. Yeah, there you go. Upper mid-range and peaky top. That's what I was noticing. Quite harsh up top. Way more bass than the V6 is. Now, I didn't find... That's in like the headphones forum. Normally, you'd be able to go onto one of the like charts where you can select multiple headphones. You can't just get a pair of V7s easily, you know. And easily. I mean, I got one, but the last I saw V7s, like I said previously, was October, November, and we're now in June. What I mean is like complete working ones. Those were even those were like $120 and pretty destroyed. Like the headband looked closer to my V6s. Ear cups completely shat. You'd have to replace them. I'm gonna replace those anyway because they chose pretty shit ones. And what do you want to say? Like they were nowhere. Like I think these were 200, which is about what a pair of CD900 STs are in. But like with how good a condition they are, I don't know how you, and also like all C ones they'll list as V7s, but then they won't have the groove here, or they won't have the 4 digital label, or they'll have a silver connector on the cable. It's like, okay, if that's wrong, what else is wrong? Or like, these are non-coiled. Now you could get a non-coiled cable. I think the 7506s are also coiled potentially. But you could put a different, more generic cable on there. This one supposedly says 7506 with V7, V6. Oh, they're doing kind of what I'm doing.
If you're a bit of a bass head, the V7 has some bass texture, which I think you'll enjoy. Next, the MDR-CD999, etc.
Oh, I want the picture. What is this? But I want you to compare. Average those two. There's a V6. What does that get up to? Like 95 there? It kind of smoother. If you get to the V7 chart here, you can see there's way more. Pretty flat dip. And this is, I say, you can see this is all more condensed. I say, like, don't go just off charts. Don't buy headphones on charts. So you're not going to, like, you can kind of use it for general indications, but just because you're seeing headphone on a chart being so much better doesn't necessarily mean on your head it's going to sound that way, or that this person really likes 7506s because they've even removable cable modded them. They might have even balanced cable modded them. I don't like 7506s that much. I would, if I was going to do it, I would get a 90s pair of V6s, that have the cobalt drivers, and then do those. And they would have to be a pretty cacked pair. I mean, mine are, but just because you wouldn't want to, like, if you want a pair of V6s in this condition. And yes, if you see a pair of V6s in the condition that these V7s are, do be aware that even the main reason why I went with those used is because if you saw the pictures of the V7 new in box, China was making knockoffs, which is crazy because you could buy V7s for $100 brand new. I think I got mine 60. But they were selling them brand new in a box like this, V6s, with the, like, it's got like I think if you watch my Sony unboxing, like, they put this like cloth in there underneath it, except the whole thing I think was like gold with red. If we do like a quick search of MDR-V6, I can show them to you. But it's so prevalent. It's like if you go and buy if you're trying to buy a new PlayStation 3 controller right now, basically impossible to find a legit one, because you're going to find all of these ones that have brand new boxes that actually have the PS4 style box on them, which the PS3 was at some point. The controller, the DualShock 3, was released with a what do you want to say, a PS4 box, like towards when the PS4 had come out and the PS3s were still being sold, like the slim variants and all these other variants. They were they were like repackaged to make them look more updated, you know. So then when the kids get the PS3 or the parents get the PS3, like they make it look like, oh, you could just get a PS3 instead of a PS4. They're like the same thing basically. And they're like not the same thing, but so it turns out, like, if you go to eBay, actually I can do that right now, ebay.com, DualShock 3, DualShock 3, and then we go, there you go, that's a fake one right there, fake. That has a chance of being new, and the fact that it's $165. You're going to see this at half price at $80, and you're going to be like, ah, that's a steal, I'm going to get it. Or you're going to see that. That is potentially fake as well. You are better off buying a good, known, used. Also, always sort by US only. That's fake as shit. That red was wrong. But if we go new, and this, I think I've somewhat made a video about this already. Condition, new. There's 15,000. There's no way there's 15,000 new DualShock 3s. Now this is legit up here. It's got literally a sales sticker still on it, like a of the era Kmart sales sticker. That's how you know that that's legit. So if you don't want to pay that kind of money, that's not even a PS3 controller. Ooh, that's a thing of the era, but that fake. That's like DualShock 3 packaging, fake. This one potentially, that legit right there. If you see that, that's like what people call the Spider-Man, the Spooderman PlayStation logo. But that blue heinous thing right there, fake as shit, more than likely. But because there's so many fakes out there, look at how much blue. If you go scroll through, there's so many blue boxes. This was the blue box PlayStation 4 packaging version of the DualShock 3. Like PlayStation 4 branding-esque, you know, of the DualShock 3, was only done for such a short period of time that there's no way that they have that many of them. But they're trying to, because they want to sell you the latest version. Oh yeah, you gotta get this one. Here you go. So for a bit, this they brought back the V6 after killing it, and it got this packaging. This is the packaging right here that when I was buying mine used, you could get these for $100 new, but people would buy new pairs off of eBay that were fake for $80 because they knocked off the exact packaging, and then they would leave bad reviews because they were like they had fully knocked them off, but they obviously didn't put as good of a speaker component in. Yeah, this packaging was only there for a short period of time, because that's their much more modern. I think a lot of Sony branding still follows, maybe not this bottom of the box design, but with that square, just Sony. If you're seeing those brand new, that would have been for a very short period of time. You're more likely to get these, but these are all faked for V6s. That's why during that era, I was like, unless you could pony up the money to and I was up for saving $1, right? But unless you're gonna pony up the money for a new pair from like a reputable place like a B&H Studio or I guess you could do like a Guitar Center, but I was thinking of some of the other ones, but like audio, like professional audio places. Excuse me. Here you go. You have people. Yeah, check this out. Boom. With picks, hard form. Headphone. Fakes. What's the era? Look at that. Told you. 2010. It's right in the era of like, and this is also, I want to say like post 2008. That's when I was like really recommending these. But people were getting here under $40 ship, authentic pair left, legit pair right. People could get brand new in box, in quotes, cheaper than you could get a used pair of V6s. Sus as fuck. I mean, they knocked them off pretty damn well. But you can see where the holes are different. Like these holes are the wrong shape, much closer to the center. You can see like they're functionally making like cheaper rubber. I bet you it's shinier. Yeah, matte, good Sony one. Bad, shiny rubber. That, see, you can see this is Sony one. It's got a metal connector on it. Yeah, so like you legit back in this era had to basically, you had to have a legit pair. Maybe not like a new in box pair like this guy is comparing, right? But you had to know your shit. Here's somebody else doing a similar. Here, I can even tell you based on the headphone connector. Zoom in. Real. Fake. Real. Clippy clampy, right? Fake. But like, had you not hold a pair, or I've used them for decades at this point, you wouldn't know it. Yeah, here the Japanese glued it all down all nice. China's like, huck it in there. It looks premium because it's in the little doobly-doo. It's supposed to look like wrapped up stuff. So that's where like V6s, if you want a pair of V6s specifically, out of Japan, like if they are confirmed 90s ones, they'll pay for good money. If you're in Japan or they're selling them out of Japan, they'll be selling for good money. It's hard to authenticate that. You're getting the Cobalt version. And otherwise, if you're not going to get the Cobalt version of a V6, just pick up a 7506. Because after a certain point, and there were slight differences. But effectively the same. And you can buy a brand new pair of 7506s still to this day, just like you can buy a brand new pair of CD900 STs. I just did. But as that thing said too, I wanted a pair of V7s. They're missing in my list. Maybe we can find a pair of V700s, which was the Japanese exclusive variant of it. I mean, they're effectively the same thing, right? So we don't really necessarily need to. The ones that I still really need in my collection is a pair of CD900, not ST, the original, the progenitor, the source of it all. So if you guys know where I can find one of those, heck, even I keep getting all my searches on eBay. They don't work because they keep giving me CD900 STs, even though I put in quotes CD900. They're like, nah, you mean the ST. It's like, no, I don't. And the biggest giveaway, I mean, granted, I won't say the first take, but instead of just having this shiny, the chrome ring, the whole cup is shiny. And if you see these are red and blue, the 900 ST, they're 900s, not STs, are like the V7s here that have the silver left and right. Do I think that's good? No. The fact that this got standardized with blue left, red right, like goated. But you can see some things from this still to this day. Probably more from the V700s from Japan that went to the 900 STs. Where they don't collapse. Some of this carried over. I'm glad they went away from the plastic plug back to the metal one. But and this cable is definitely not as nice. But this is the correct, like, for those wondering, you're like, oh, how do you know it's not the fake cable? No, this is the one for the V7. Like, if you keep an eye out on eBay too, you'll see some of them, and you'll see a lot of them worn to shit. Like that'll at least give you tips on what to look for on the pair you're actually looking for. And that's why, even though these were as pricey as a brand new pair of headphones, I paid up as soon as they popped up. There wasn't even a best offer available on these, and I can see why. I mean, I'm guessing the cups on them were destroyed, and they're like, oh, put new cups on. If you look at like cups sold for the V7s, they're like $9 or something probably for those on eBay. So we're gonna put a pair of these on there, as it should be. I think they might have a pair with like white rings or something. I want to make them look different, so I know when they're sitting here, they're a different pair. Yeah, the Yaxi pads are a huge improvement in comfort, at least. Some of you may about the difference in quality. I can tell you that at least two artists, and I said this in a recent, 2 artists I follow, buy pairs. I had to replace their pair of CD900 STs. One of them tried for one session with the standard cups, and then immediately went and picked up the Yaxi pads. I don't know if he got these specific pair. I think he got the red and blue pair, but the whole cup is red and blue on the ones he was rocking. Which I think is the older. This is like the V2 variant. That must have been the V1. But he could walk in a store. Imagine that, being able to buy like modded Sony ear cups in a physical store, like aftermarket. Would love that. Well, if you guys enjoyed this video, please check out my other ones. I'm a fiend for the reference sound in general. The main ones I'm rocking now, Audio-Technica R70XAs. Before that was the R70X Refines for a very little bit until these came out. R70Xs are kind of my end game. Then for work, I'm running MV1s here. I'm running an M1 at the office because I need to close back in the office. Previously, I was running M1 STs. So prior to like kind of the update of the Audio-Technicas, I was running R70Xs, not the XAs, and M1 STs at home. That was my 2 pair. So these, I basically was thinking in my head, like after a while, like I want a more compact pair of open backs. I would love if Sony would just fucking get off their ass and make basically an open back pair of the M1 STs. That's what the M1s are, or MV1s are, sorry. It's going to be hard for you to find a more compact pair of open backs than that aren't on ear than those MV1s. And the sound is a little bit more, because it's meant for like Atmos and stuff, so it's a little bit more like less flat, right? But oh, man, they still sound great. I think they're a sleeper for a lot of people. They're gonna be really comfortable. I use these all day, literally all day, for work, listening to music, YouTube video, like while I'm working on stuff, like. So I just I don't know. I would much rather take a like Sony reference sound over a like what are those? Sennheiser HD 598s. I also bought a pair of 58Xs. I don't like how the bass sounds on those. It's like tuned differently. And maybe that's because it's more of like an audiophile headphone versus a like reference headphone. To me, the R70Xs, they are also reference headphones. So they're like really tuned up Sonys. like really, really, really precise. Similar response curve, but just like better, right? More open. You feel more into. Watch my video on those. If you want a really premium pair and you're willing to put down more than, if you start putting down more than $200, you can get stuff that's worse than the $200 headphones for your preferences. You can also get stuff that, like, holy shit, I can see where, say, $300 to $400, like 50% to twice as much more can get you. I'm not gonna say twice as much more. That's not what happens. It's a not a linear curve, but wow, it does make a difference. You also need, though. These are all 32 ohms. The M1STs and the MV1s are ridiculously easy to drive. I think the M1STs are like less than 32 ohms. The MV1s similarly so. The R70Xs, I have to put it in a high gain to use them on my D9X. I have to do that on their DX9. I have to do that on the other ones that I can toggle amplification as well. So whereas you can run a M1ST off of a smartphone, like the USB dongle, like not a fancy, like the Apple USB dongle. They're in my case over there. You can do the same thing on the V6 if you really need to. They do benefit from more powerful amplification, but you don't need to. Whereas stuff like those, you have to, pretty much. And I would argue, even the newer Sonys do benefit from a balanced cable, but something like those Audio-Technicas greatly benefit from a balanced cable. So just something to consider. The fact that, this older, and the newer Sony line as well, if you're using the standard 3.5mm, those will plug into fucking anything. They made them so efficient. And actually I don't know if the M1ST is like this, but I have the 7520s, which was going to be the Western replacement for the 7506 and MDR-V6. They had the 7510s, I think, and the 7520s. 7510s were plastic. The 7520s have magnesium housings on them, and they are, I'm not gonna say bass cans, but they probably have more bass than the V6-7s. Even those new new like late 80s, early 90s V7s. They like dropped those. Those don't exist anymore. And what happened with them is they're like SPL. They're like so sensitive that in the EU they couldn't be sold in consumer markets anymore. And the 7510 and 7520 were gonna kind of be the not entry level, but like their premium kind of like prosumer level, and then the 7520s would be their like the replacement for the 7506, right? Well, once that got limited to, or like the equivalent V7/7506s, once they couldn't sell those in normal like stores anymore, in Europe it had to be in like a professional music store, like a music store. That basically killed them, because they already knew, because the shape change, that it wasn't gonna fly in Japan. They just kept doing the CD900 STs. What's interesting is even in Japan, First Take has a First Take version of the CD900 STs, not the M1 STs, which are a superior headphone in my opinion, but like the entire market in Japan is rocking CD900 STs. So to change that is so hard. So the CD900 ST is actually more iconic for the First Take, for all, because that's done by studio. The First Take's done by Sony. You've seen some other, I've seen Beyerdynamics on there. Like technically, they can use whatever microphone and whatever headphone they want on there, but they'll provide them obviously what they would normally give, like what the industry standard is for a Sony recording studio, at those, and they're still rocking in many cases CD900 ST, because those have been there since what, the 90s, late 90s, when those were standardized or whatever. Yeah, so it's like, to change that, and That's why the M1STs look so physically the same as the CD900 STs and the V6s and 7506s, is because even though, like, what do you want to say, like mechanically or sound wise, the 7520s were better. I don't know if they were. They had more low end. They were quite durable as well. Like, they were trying to be the like the new professional headphone for them, but because it was physically such a deviation from what Japan was used to, they didn't even attempt to do it there. And then when they lost Europe, because it had to be sold in a music store, because of how sensitive they were, like basically what they were saying is like, you with an iPod can crank them up to such a because they're so sensitive and they use so little power to do the amplification. They're so efficient that you could hurt your hearing out of like a basic smartphone, because smartphones would have had headphone jacks at the time, or an iPod or equivalent. So you can't sell them to consumers because they could hurt themselves, which is crazy. And that just like wrecked them, because they were intending, I think, for the 7510 to kind of be like the consumer headphone, and the 7520 to be the professional one. It was considerably more. Like, there was 300 some bucks, if I recall correctly. Yeah, I do have a pair of them. They're brilliant. I even had a custom cable made. Less brilliant, but the thing it came with was like miles long. I'm pretty sure those came with also the same friggin', because those came native 1/4 inch as well. So it came with that same 1/4 inch to 3.5mm adapter. Like I said, the thing has a connector for an iPhone Gen 1. Actually, the 3GS also might have had that recessed connector, but once you went to the iPhone 4, it was no longer recessed. So just thinking about how old that 3.5mm to 1/4 inch adapter is. But yeah, it's you know, like that's why those didn't work, and that's why also the M1ST came out of their studio division that had designed the original CD900 ST, or like upgraded it. Few things come out of there, and then it sort of trickled. If you look at the M1, they basically adapted the M1ST to be more Western, deeper cups, thicker cups, for bigger heads. A lot of the changes, if you go and watch that video, were very like things that I modified to with the Axie pads or something. It comes out of the factory like that. Also, once the M1 came out, we got these nice GEEKRIA cables that are like under 40 bucks, rather than to get like the balanced audio cables for the M1ST and later MV1 until the M1 came out. They were like as much as the headphones. Or Sony made some, but they didn't lock in, because they were made, even technically they should have been, because they would have fit the 7510 and 7520 and the consumer variants of those. They still don't lock in, even though those had locking connectors as well, and they wear out. So yes, yeah. But maybe now that there's aftermarket ones like this, I can get Audio Sound to make one of these kind of for my Sonys. But yeah, in the meantime, this video was about my acquisition of one of, from my understanding, rarer pair. It's interesting that headband's supposed to be creased like that, you know? But a rare pair of Sony headphones. I need to get those cheap ear cups off there ASAP. Maybe we'll make a video on that. Changing them and getting them in the seam is kind of a pain in the beep beep. If you ever seen somebody not, like, they go over, my previous leather ones were like that, because they weren't technically only for, they're kind of like a universal fit. For the longest time, if you wanted leather cups on the V6s or the 7506s, you kind of had to get a universal fit headphone. But nowadays, when there's modifications and premium everything, ain't no problem. Especially because they're out of Japan. They have a market for it in the CD900 ST, in every studio, probably not every musician, but like any Sony one. So hope you guys found this interesting. The comparisons. What I find interesting is like what I'm hearing. in differences in these headphones seems to be backed up by those charts we looked at. And there really don't seem to be a lot of people that have V7s to be able to compare, because I'm surprised I got a pair as new as I did. That's got. I mean, you can see a pair that was used when I got it that needed a cable replaced. Like they were probably live using it, right? And then I used them since I got them. Those, if they were used, were babied. Like there's no marks on the cable. Like I've probably put more marks on some of this than you can see a little bit of spinning here, a little bit of marking on the 1/4 inch, which I haven't used yet. And like I said, there was like a little rough spot on there, so maybe it was just plugged in and left someplace. But the headband's got like nowhere. That was not exposed to UV. There's no like those silver. I've seen CD900s before, and those silver like logos are always scratched to all hell.